another installment.
Yet another one.
It almost didn't happen.
It almost didn't happen for multiple reasons. The child dropped the laptop in the floor earlier.
Oh, yeah, I
from
forgot.
off of his very tall bed.
Was it off of his bed? He told me it fell off the bed, but then whenever I got home, he was on my bed, so I just assumed
No,
it was
he was trying to put it on his bed.
That's scary.
And he knocked it in the floor.
Yeah, that's not a very secure place to put the computer.
No.
But also, I think we all forgot that it was Tuesday. Even though yesterday was Monday.
And it's like, I was aware that it was Tuesday because I know that you had night school, but it just didn't, I guess, feel like Tuesday.
It didn't feel like Tuesday. Well, I would like to tell you 2 stories today.
You didn't have any stories, and now you have 2 stories.
Well, one of them is a horror story about my day.
Okay.
So, the whole day was just kind of already cuckoo. But then it got to 7th period. And my class was taking a quiz. And I made them all put their phones in the phone zone because they're taking a quiz. And somebody's phone starts ringing. Mm-hmm. And the ringtone was, "I'm in love with a stripper."
Okay.
So I'm like...
As all teenagers should have as their ringtone.
Yes. So I'm standing next to the phone zone, staring at the class going, somebody want to come turn this off? And they're all just looking at me. And I was just like, so nobody wants to claim this as theirs? Like, come on, guys, turn it off. So
you're like, so y'all are fine if I keep this, right?
So the girl whose phone it is comes over and she's like, "I'm so sorry, my boyfriend must have changed my ringtone." And so then she checks her phone and she's like, "Man, I'm supposed to go to a doctor's appointment and I don't know if that's what this is about. Can I please go take this call in the hallway?" And I was like, "Okay, but be fast because you have to take a quiz." Mm-hmm. So she goes out to do that. In the middle of all of this, I have another student run out of the room to barf. Luckily, he did not do it in my room. But he also didn't make it all the way to the toilet, so he like barfed all over the bathroom.
Yeah, I had one yesterday who thought she was going to barf, and they sent her to the nurse's office, and they just told her to keep a trash can next to her desk. And I was like, what about sending her home?
Yeah, I guess he had gone to the nurse like the period before, and she sent him back to class, because they'll send them back to class if they don't have a fever.
Yeah.
But anyway, so the poor custodian lady had to clean this like giant mess up in the bathroom. So then he comes back to class, just gonna resume his quiz.
Yeah.
And literally everybody in the class is like got their faces covered, like with their shirts and hoodies and stuff. And I was like, no. And he was like, "I feel great. I feel much better now."
You always feel great after barfing.
And I was like, yeah, but like you're a germ, and nobody in here wants it.
Yeah.
And so go to the nurse. You can make this up another time. Yeah. We don't have to do this right now.
I'm happy to let you retake this quiz.
So in the middle of all of that, the girl who was on the phone comes back in, and she's like getting her backpack and stuff. And like when they get checked out, they bring a slip to the room and say they're being checked out. So I guess one thing happened before that. She came back in from being on the phone and she said, "Can somebody be removed from the list of people who can check you out?" And I was like, well, I guess like your guardian or parents or whatever can remove people. And she was like, well, the people who are here to pick me up are supposed to be on my list, but the office is saying they're not on my list. So she's like gathering all her stuff up. The girls around her are like, just leave. So she just leaves. And so I called the office and I'm like, did she check out? And they were like, no. So, like, there was so much going on.
Yeah.
It was a bonkers banana afternoon after a bonkers banana day, but none of the rest of it was nearly as bonkers bananas as that one.
It was a 5 banana day.
It was a 5 banana day. So the second story that I'm going to tell you is not my bonkers banana story.
Good. My day was not bonkers banana.
No?
A stranger clipped my toenails.
Ew.
Well, I mean, I was at the podiatrist.
Oh,
but...
right. I don't know what other scenario that would have happened in.
Maybe getting a pedicure.
Perhaps, but you don't really do that.
No. But so someone I've never met before clipped my toenails for me.
I forgot you had that.
And...
I remember you were going to the diabetes doctor, but I didn't remember the
No.
podiatrist.
First I had to go to the podiatrist, and then I had to go to the diabetes doctor.
Oh, yeah. You back on Ozempic?
No. I still have to wait another, 2 months before he will put me, or try to put me back on the Mounjaro.
Oh, yeah.
Because they won't cover the Ozempic.
Right.
And he said that now my insurance doesn't want to cover my test strips because I'm on a CGM now.
But you still have to check your sugars.
You don't technically have to.
Except that you said that thing isn't accurate all the time.
It's not, but it's supposed to be.
Okay.
And so, I guess he got them to approve me for 50 test strips, a month.
Yeah.
Because I'm not supposed to be checking it, often.
Right. Yeah, I guess that makes sense. So you wouldn't need as many. Well, I saw a tweet earlier that I assumed to be a true tweet. I hate when people make fake tweets because then you don't know if you're reading something that's real or not.
I know, I saw some sort of fake tweet last night about Kurt Russell being dead.
Oh, that's a bad one.
Yeah.
Well, this one was from President Musk.
Yes.
And it was something about billionaires being tired of subsidizing poor people. And I'm like, first of all, you don't even pay taxes. So let's just get that straight. But it was if you want healthcare, befriend a doctor. And I was like, I don't understand why healthcare isn't a human right, but that's a story for another podcast. So anyway, you just said insurance and it reminded me of that because I hate insurance. Okay, so is that all your story? I forgot. I interrupted you.
Oh, no, it's fine. My day was pretty uneventful.
You're so lucky. I hope tomorrow's uneventful. I'm literally thinking about making tomorrow draw a picture for a grade day after the way today went. But I guess we'll see. All right, so the other story I'm going to tell you today is the story of Katherine Mary Knight.
Okie dokie.
And Katherine Mary Knight was born on October 24th, 1955 into one of the worst possible families. Also we're in Australia for this story. So she had 4 older brothers from her mother's first marriage, and then from the mother's second marriage, there was an additional 4 children born, including twins. Katherine was one of the twins. Her father was a raging alcoholic who was said to have raped his wife up to 10 times per day.
Good times.
Yeah. Katherine's mother was known to share intimate details of her sex life with her children and tell them how much she hated sex, which I guess if you were being assaulted that many times every day, you probably would. Katherine herself has said that she was sexually assaulted by several members of her family, except for her father, up until she was 11. She, I guess at some point as an adult, had expressed to her mother that one of her partners wanted to perform a sexual act that she wasn't comfortable with, and her mother told her to, quote, put up with it and stop complaining.
Yeah.
And I thought that was so wild because you would think that her mother would be more supportive because she was being abused.
But I guess the mother was also kind of just taking it, so.
Yeah, I guess there's that. So, not a fantastic start to life.
No.
She wasn't super close to anyone in her family except for her twin sister and her uncle Oscar, which, who can blame her if she was being abused by all of them.
Mm-hmm.
Her uncle, however, committed suicide in 1969, and that just, completely devastated Katherine. And she claims even now that his ghost visits her. This is not a haunted story, but there's that. So, the same year, 1969, her family moved to Aberdeen, where her mother was originally from. Katherine started at a new high school where she was a loner who also liked to bully little kids. She assaulted a little boy with a weapon. She also was apparently injured by a teacher when the teacher was defending herself from Katherine.
Yeah.
But when she wasn't being a bully and beating people up, she was great.
Yeah.
She even earned rewards for her good behavior. Like, often, apparently.
I don't know how the balance there works. Like, I think if you're being terrible the rest of the time, then it kind of negates your good behavior, because
I wondered if, like, the administrators were trying to stay in her good graces.
Right? They didn't want to be assaulted.
Please don't beat us up. Here, have some rewards. So
you're not being terrible right now. Here, have a cookie.
Yeah. Nobody gives me cookies for that, but whatever. So she left school at 15, somehow never having learned to read or write.
I don't know how you get that far into school without being able to read or write.
Well, like, that was, like, literally the next thing I was going to say. Like, there was nothing else in anything that I read about prior schooling to this high school. Mm-hmm. But assuming that she did go to school all of this time.
Right. Well, that's what I was going to say. Like, 15 is a fairly advanced age as far as schooling goes.
Yeah.
And so if she was in school all of that time until she was 15, how was she in school all of that time without being able to read and write?
Your guess is as good as mine. So a year after she left school, she's 16, Katherine lands her dream job at 16. Do you want to know what her dream job is?
I can't even imagine.
She had a job at the local butcher shop cutting the organs out of butchered animals.
That is so similar to my dream job.
I thought so. I wrote woo next to it.
I often think about how much I wish that I could cut the organs out of animals.
Right. And she was so good at her job that she was quickly promoted to boning the animals and was even given a set of her very own butcher knives.
Well, huzzah for her, I guess.
I mean, butcher knives don't come cheap.
No, and I guess if it's your dream job for whatever reason, then, that's probably great for you.
Yeah, she proudly hung them over her bed in every house that she ever lived from then on.
That seems dangerous.
Sure does. She said that she kept them handy if she ever needed them.
But what if they fall off the wall in the middle of the night?
I wondered that too.
I've had, like, posters and things fall off the wall on me in the middle of the night and scare me to death, so...
You're, like, just sleeping and then you lose a nose?
Yeah.
I don't... Because those have to be pretty sharp, especially if you're boning animals.
Yeah.
Deboning animals?
Deboning.
It said boning in the article.
I mean, like, I think it's one of those cases where the word and, like, what would sound like the opposite of the word mean the exact same thing.
Mm-hmm. I think you're correct.
But it doesn't, like, negate the word for whatever reason.
Right. Yeah, I don't know. So... Okay, there we go. All right, so that was 1970, 71-ish.
Okay.
So we're going to fast forward to 1973. Katherine is now 19, and she meets her dream man at her dream job.
Well, isn't that dreamy?
She's living the dream.
She really is.
This man...
The Australian dream.
The Australian dream. It's the dream down under.
Yes.
I lost my thought. My head hurts. So, my brain has been functioning at, like, an all-time low today.
Yeah.
Like,
headaches do that.
Headaches, bonkers, bananas, 7th period classes. I don't know. But I've been at an all-time low. And that's even with taking my ADHD medication today. Like, I remembered to do it.
Which I still need to do.
I don't like to take, I set an alarm to take it in the morning because I always think that, like, if it's supposed to help me stay focused, then I probably shouldn't take it at night.
I don't know.
So I take it in the daytime. Plus, like, I even have, like, a booster that I'm supposed to take in the afternoon if, like, I need it.
Yeah.
I probably should have taken that today. I did not. Anyway, back to Katherine and her dream man.
Her dream man, her dream job.
And a dream down under. So this man's name is David Kellett. Before working at the butcher shop, he had worked a railway job, and he had 2 pretty traumatic incidents happen to him at this job. His best friend was killed right in front of him during a switching accident. And then another time, a train hit a school bus that killed 6 children, and David helped rescue the kids that were still on the bus. So after these things, David took to drinking, which I guess probably.
I mean, I guess you could see where he's coming from.
Right. I mean, I probably wouldn't, but I could see why he did.
Yes. Some people might.
Yes. His drinking led him to losing his job, which led him to the butcher shop, which led him to Katherine. So it was like a series of unfortunate events. Katherine was definitely the dominant partner in this relationship. She requested that they marry in 1974, and I just kind of picture David shrugging and being like, all right.
Okay, fine.
They showed up to the wedding with her driving her motorcycle and David sitting on the back seat completely blotto. Katherine's mother gave David some sound advice on this momentous occasion.
I'm sure.
I'm not going to give you the exact quote, but the gist was that don't make her mad and don't cheat on her or she'll kill you. And a direct quote from Mom was, she's got a screw loose somewhere. So.
I mean, high praise coming from her mother.
Yes. So later that night, their wedding night, Katherine tried to strangle David. And
as one does on your wedding night.
Well, he only had sex with her 3 times.
Well.
And she was real mad about it. And so, I mean, I guess it was justly deserved in Katherine's screwless head. So, it's a screw loose, but I don't know if there were any screws up there. So, this may come as a bit of a shock to you, but their marriage was not a happy one.
I can only imagine.
I mean, but there was a dream man and a dream job in the dream down under.
Well, one of them was living the dream. The other one...
It turned into a nightmare, I think.
Might have been living a nightmare.
So they, or perhaps just Katherine, I don't know, were pretty violent. Because I didn't see anything about him abusing her. Most of it was the other way around. So one time, when David showed up late from playing in a darts tournament, where he even got into the finals of this tournament, Katherine, who was heavily pregnant, had burned all of his clothes and shoes, and then hit him on the back of the head with a frying pan.
How dare he have hobbies?
He ran away and collapsed at a neighbor's house with a severely fractured skull. And somehow Katherine talked him out of pressing charges.
He was probably afraid of her.
Probably. So shortly after this, she gave birth to their first child. David left Katherine for another woman and moved to Queensland. The very next day after David left, Katherine went for a stroll down Main Street, pushing the newborn baby in a stroller and violently throwing the stroller from side to side.
Sounds like... Yeah, I don't really have any words for it.
Yeah, there's not a whole lot of words. The police came and sent her to the hospital where she was diagnosed with postpartum depression. She stayed in the hospital for weeks. I don't know how many weeks, but some weeks. And when she was released, Katherine put the baby on the train tracks and then stole an axe and walked around town threatening to kill people with said axe.
There's that screw loose.
Yes. I think another one came loose. Maybe when she was violently shaking the baby. So in comes the hero of this particular part of the story, Old Ted. Old Ted was an unhoused man who was foraging nearby and rescued the baby just minutes before the train came through.
Good job, Ted.
Yeah. I hope Ted got an award. I mean, if Katherine can get an award
for just not being awful for a minute.
Yeah, then Ted can definitely get a reward for this. So Katherine was arrested and taken to the hospital again, but miraculously she recovered overnight and was released the next day. So maybe they screwed the screw in and hoped that it would stay, but they didn't realize that it was stripped.
I was going to say, I'm worried that those screws are stripped because they're going to come loose again.
Yeah. Well, they very quickly came loose again. So I don't know how many days after this hospital visit this was, but then she slashed a woman across the face with one of her knives and demanded that the woman drive her to Queensland, where she said she was going to kill David and his mother. The woman escaped at a gas station, but by the time the police arrived, she had taken a little boy hostage and was threatening him with her knife. And police then beat her into submission with brooms.
She's delightful, is all I can really say. Her life sounds like the dream.
If your dream happens to be a nightmare.
Yes.
Do you want to comment on the brooms?
I'm having a really hard time commenting on this story at all because it's all just a bit much.
Bonkers bananas?
Yes.
It's a 5 bananas.
It's a 5 banana story.
I wondered if it was because, other countries' police officers don't really carry guns. Mm-hmm. So I wondered because this was also, the 70s or something? Mm-hmm. And so maybe they didn't have, tasers or something?
Yeah, but I didn't give a whole lot of thought about, where they got the brooms.
I didn't even think of that. I was just they came armed with brooms.
I don't know if they came with the brooms or if the brooms just happened to be handy.
I don't know. There's a lot there.
There's a lot going on in this whole story, honestly,
So after she was beaten into submission with the brooms, she was taken to a psychiatric hospital where she told the staff that her plan had been to kill the mechanic who fixed her husband's car, thus allowing him to move to Queensland.
Okay.
So the police go to David, and they're like, hey, so your wife kidnapped a lady to come kill you and your mom. And David was like, cool, and promptly left his girlfriend and took his mom to Aberdeen to support Katherine.
I mean, what else are you gonna do, I guess?
I don't know if this was classic abused partner behavior, like going back into the cycle, mm-hmm. or if it was I'm trying to keep her from hurting other people because I left.
Yeah, I don't know. I just feel like he didn't want him or his mother to get murdered, and so...
Well, that too.
He figured it's better to be on her side than against her.
Like the administrators in the school?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so... I don't know if that's kind of where his thinking was, or...
I don't know.
Again, there's a whole lot going on in this story.
So, he came back with his mom. She's released from the psychiatric hospital into the care of her mother-in-law. And...
The woman that she was going to kill.
The reason why she's in the hospital is because she was going to kill this woman. But released into her care.
I find a common thing with a lot of the stories that we cover is... people getting released that should not be released.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know why this happens.
I don't know, because, I'd love to blame it on, the United States stupid,
mm-hmm.
criminal justice system, but this is Australia.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. So, they moved to Ipswich and had another child in 1980. Is that Strax?
No, that's Hazel.
Oh, okay.
When I'm in here, she comes and knocks on the door.
Yeah. Because Strax is the same thing. So.
No, that's definitely Hazel.
Strax's is more rhythmic when he scratches on the door. Okay, baby in 1980. In 1984, Katherine left David.
Okay.
And she moved back to Aberdeen. She got another job as a butcher, but then she hurt her back and she went on disability. So,
I wonder how relieved he was when she left him.
Right? Because, like, if it's her decision, then you don't have to, like, fear for your life, I would assume.
I would hope.
Yeah, I would hope. So, now, 1986, Katherine meets another man. This unfortunate man was 38-year-old David Saunders, who was a minor. So, either David is a super popular name and this was a coincidence, or she likes men named David. So, after a few months, he moved in with Katherine and her 2 daughters. She apparently kicked him out a lot because she said she was jealous of what he would do when she wasn't around. There's literally nothing anywhere written down what he was doing when she wasn't around. So, like, was he just like...
I mean, she beat up the other David for playing darts. So.
Yeah, so there's no telling. Like, he could have, like...
It could have been anything.
I'm trying to think. He watched Dallas without her. I was, like, trying to think of some show that might have been on in 1986.
I don't know how popular Dallas was in Australia.
I don't know. I don't know any Australian shows besides that mermaid show you used to watch.
Hey, that's a pretty good show.
Are there any other Australian shows? I mean, that we know of. There probably are other Australian shows. The Crocodile Hunter?
I think there was, like, a long-running soap opera type show called Neighbours. I think that was an Australian show.
I don't know. Maybe he was watching that without her. Maybe. And she missed the new episodes and she was real mad. So, in 1987, and you're going to have to cover your ears for this part. So, to teach Saunders a lesson, or maybe...
Don't say gross things.
Give him a warning. Cover your ears. She killed his 2-month-old dingo puppy.
First of all, is it legal to own a dingo?
I don't know.
And second of all, that's gross and sad.
Yeah, so she slashed his throat and told Saunders that it would happen to him if he cheated on her.
Why you gotta kill the puppy?
I don't know.
Why people do stuff like that?
I don't know.
I mean, I'm sorry to humans that also get murdered.
Right.
But
like animals just seem like so much more like helpless.
And it's like, the animal had nothing to do with this. Like,
I know. And he was a baby.
Yeah.
And so, I don't know. She's officially screwless at this point. So then, after this, she knocks David unconscious with a frying pan. She really likes that frying pan. She's like, with the big iron skillet in my hand. Yeah.
She's the epitome of that Wanda Jackson song.
Except that, like, the man was terrible in that song. Right. These guys just seem to be, like, trying to live their lives and came across a crazy lady. So, Saunders, who is apparently a better man than I am, stayed with Katherine, and they had a baby in 1988 and bought a house. And so then Katherine went into happy home paradise mode and became quite the interior designer of this house. She decorated it with the following list that I found on Wikipedia.
Okay.
Animal skins, skulls, horns, rusty animal traps, leather jackets, old boots, machetes, rakes and pitchforks. And she covered everything floor to ceiling, including the ceiling.
Sounds like a very tasteful home.
Right? Very demure. Very cutesy.
Sorry, I'm Googling whether it's legal to own a dingo.
Okay, also remember that this was 1986. 87.
You can't take them from the wild. And you have to have a permit. But whether or not you can own one or not depends on the laws of that specific area of Australia.
Okay. I wish that it had not been legal, so the puppy had never been there in the first place.
Right.
That's what I wish.
I also agree.
Okay. So, Happy Home Paradise.
Yes.
And I was just thinking about how dangerous most of those things are. And she had little kids.
Right. Lots of very sharp, pointy things.
Yeah. Oh, my
when you
goodness.
have babies.
She's a very special lady. So...
Well, her mother warned us.
She really did. She tried. After another fight, Katherine hit Saunders in the face with an iron and then stabbed him in the stomach with a pair of scissors. He left. Then he came back. But when he came back, he discovered that Katherine had cut up all of his clothes, and he immediately moved out and went into hiding.
I don't blame him.
I don't blame him, but also, like, all of the other things.
Right? This was the last straw.
The clothes being shredded.
If she's willing to shred my clothes, I gotta get out of here.
She killed my puppy. She stabbed me in the gut. But she
took it too far this time.
took it too far. So, do you want to just let her in? Like, maybe she'll stop doing that.
Stop making nails on the chalkboard noises.
She just wants to go to Love Island. Everybody meet Hazel.
She has things to say.
She does. Her just wants love. Her just loves love. Will you hand me my tea? Thank you. Okay. Okay. So, David had left, came back, clothes were shredded, left and went into hiding.
Yes.
So, months later, he comes back to see his daughter. And he finds out that Katherine had gone to the police and told them how afraid of David that she was and got a restraining order.
How come nobody got a restraining order against her?
There's one later. But, so this is the last we hear of David Saunders. In 1991, she had a baby with another coworker. This relationship lasted for 3 years before she left him for a man she had been having an affair with. I didn't say anything else about this relationship, so I don't know how many times he was knocked out and or stabbed. So now enter John Price, or Pricey to his friends.
Okay.
Pricey had 3 children before he had met Katherine. The older of the 2 lived with him. He was regarded as a terrific bloke. He was a minor. Everybody liked him. And he apparently knew about Katherine's violent reputation, but he moved her into his house anyway in 1995.
As one does when they know that someone is crazy.
Yeah. So his children apparently liked her, and for a while things were good. Until they weren't. In 1998, they had a fight because John refused to marry Katherine. What do you think she did next?
Well, she probably hit him with a frying pan.
That would be a good guess. I mean, it is a good guess. Not that it would be a good guess. It is a good guess, but it's not the right guess. So, John had... wherever he, the mine or whatever, wherever he worked, they had, like, it says medical kits, so I'm assuming, like, first aid kits. Mm-hmm. But they were expired and they got thrown away.
Yeah.
And John was like, well, I know these are expired and they're thrown away, but, like, they're still good stuff, so he took them home.
Right.
So Katherine, like, lined up all of this stuff and, like, videotaped it, mm-hmm. and then sent it to his boss, and then he got fired for stealing.
Well, I wouldn't have guessed that.
No. And he had worked there for 17 years. And she got him fired. And, like, he doesn't want to get married to you, but, like, you live in his house. Like, wouldn't you want him to have a job?
Continue to pay the bills.
Right. So, Let's see, where am I at? So that same day, John kicked Katherine out. A few months later, though, he decides to rekindle the relationship. And he was trying to take it slow, and he wouldn't let her move in right away. But they did start fighting more often, even to the point where John's friends wouldn't even come around anymore because of Katherine.
Can you blame them?
No, I cannot. So in February 2000, Katherine stabbed John in the chest after a series of other assaults. He kicked her out of the house. I don't know if, like, at this point they were living together again or if she had just been there and then he, like, made her leave. Which I'm like, if you got stabbed in the chest, I imagine you would request somebody leave.
You need to go now.
Bye-bye. On February 28th, John stopped by the magistrate court or whatever on his way to work and got a restraining order against Katherine, which required her to stay away from him and his children. That same day, John told his coworkers that if he didn't come to work the next day, it was because Katherine had killed him. And they were like, bro, maybe don't go home then.
Yeah, maybe go somewhere else.
But he was worried that Katherine would kill his children if he didn't go home,
right.
So he went home.
Like, valid fear.
So when he got home, Katherine wasn't there, but she had sent his children to a friend's house for a sleepover. And I'm like, red flag? She sent the children away?
Mm-hmm.
And I was just thinking maybe, like, quietly back out of the house and go get your babies and run so far away.
Run far, far away.
But instead, old Pricey spent the evening hanging out with his neighbors and went to bed around 11 p.m. Earlier in the day, Katherine had bought some new lingerie, and then she videotaped all of her children. And I guess this was supposed to be like some sort of weird last will and testament thing. Or I get it was supposed to be. So sometime after John had gone to bed, Katherine went to his house, watched some TV, then she woke him up. They had sex, and she went back to sleep. Or he went back to sleep. And, like, I'm not victim blaming, but, like, sir, you literally just got a restraining order against this woman that morning. And you told your coworkers you were pretty sure she was going to kill you.
Yeah.
But, you know, whatever. So the next morning around 6 a.m., a neighbor was concerned because Price's car was still in the driveway. I don't know what time he normally went to work for someone to be concerned that his car was still home at 6 a.m.
Right.
I'm still asleep at 6 a.m.
I mean, he works in the mines, right? So,
yeah.
Well, but he got fired.
He got fired. Oh, yeah. Did he go to work at the butcher shop? So many things surround this butcher shop, but I don't know. I don't know. So anyway,
yeah,
they're concerned. His car's still there at 6 a.m. I hope that nobody's ever concerned that my car is home at 6 a.m.
It should be.
That's exactly where it's supposed to be. Be concerned if it's still there at like 10 a.m.
Don't be concerned if it's still there at 10 a.m.
Just assume that I didn't want to go to work today.
Yeah.
But maybe it was okay that they were concerned at this time, though, because
they had a valid reason to be concerned this time.
So when John didn't arrive for work, his boss, who was probably paranoid because John told them the day before he was pretty sure he was going to be murdered, sent another worker to John's house to check on him. The worker and the neighbor tried knocking on his bedroom window to see if they could wake him up, and then they saw blood on the front door and called the police. I don't know why they didn't start at the front door. But alright. So the police broke down the door where they found John, who had indeed been murdered, and Katherine, who had taken a lot of pills and was knocked out.
Okay.
So what they pieced together from the blood evidence is that Katherine had stabbed John while he was sleeping. He woke up and tried to turn on the light and escape, and Katherine chased him through the house. He got outside and maybe stumbled back into the house or got dragged back into the house, but he died in the hallway from blood loss. She had stabbed him 37 times, some of the wounds hitting major organs. So Katherine then went into town and withdrew $1,000 from John's account at an ATM. Several hours later, she skinned him and hung his skin from a meat hook in the doorway to the living room.
That's pretty gross.
Yeah, so the Supreme Court Justice Barry O'Keefe, who was the sentencing judge on her trial, had a really good description of what took place, but it was really long, so I'm not going to read all of it. But he did say of the skinning, quote, and this is really gross if you need to, like, fast forward 30 seconds or something, maybe a minute. He said, quote, "This was carried out with the considerable expertise and an obviously steady hand, so that his skin, including that of the head, face, nose, ears, neck, torso, genital organs, and legs, was removed so as to form one pelt. So expertly was it done that after the post-mortem examination, the skin was able to be re-sewn onto Mr. Price's body in a way which indicated a clear and appropriate, albeit grisly, methodology."
Delightful.
Yeah. She also cut off his head and boiled it in a large pot with some veggies that she had chopped up. Justice O'Keefe called this a, quote, "sickening stew."
It's pretty sickening.
She also sliced off pieces of his buttocks and cooked them in the oven with some other veggies. And in case you're wondering what veggies pair well with human flesh, Katherine prepared baked potato, carrot, pumpkin, beetroot, zucchini, cabbage, yellow squash, and also made a gravy. She prepared 2 plates with the quote-unquote steaks and put them on the table with notes to John's 2 children. So basically she was planning on feeding all of this to his children. There was a 3rd plate that had been thrown out the back door, and nobody really knows why, but like there was speculation that maybe she tried to eat it and like couldn't, and like it out the back door. She then posed his skinless body with his left arm draped over an empty soda bottle, and she crossed his legs. She left a handwritten blood-stained note on top of a picture of John. It basically accused John of raping Catherine's daughter and John's daughter and son. None of those accusations were believable. Like, everybody was just like, this absolutely did not happen.
Yeah.
Katherine tried to... she pulled through from her pill
Yes.
Adjustment? Is that a word?
I don't know.
Ingestion?
I mean, that probably is a word. I don't know if adjustment is a word, though.
You know what? The Beatles said... What did the Beatles say? You can't sing something that can't be sung. So you can't say something that isn't a word.
There's nothing you can sing that can't
be sung. Yeah. So, that's what I have to say about that. Is it a word? Faren's got her Google machine out.
I'm gonna go with no.
It's a liar. Elon Musk had it removed from the internet.
He keeps just trying to correct it to investment.
Of course it does.
It's all about money.
Billionaires. Okay, so she tried to plead guilty to manslaughter. And the court was like, no.
I mean, she definitely slaughtered a man.
It's true. She then pled not guilty. And I didn't write this part down, but I guess, like, when they were trying to select jurors, there were lots of jurors that were like, gross, I can't do this. And so then she changed her plea to guilty. And nobody really knows why, because she refused to accept responsibility for her actions. Her lawyer's defense had been amnesia and disassociation. Or dissociation. How do you say that word?
Dissociating.
Yeah.
So, dissociation.
Yeah, not disassociating. She's not associating with them anymore.
Not affiliated with them any longer.
No more. She was found to have borderline personality disorder. Hazel's just having all the love. She was sentenced to life in prison with her papers marked, quote, definitely never to be released, which was a first in Australian history for a woman to be sentenced this way.
Yes.
She tried to appeal in 2006 on the grounds that a life sentence with no possibility of parole was too severe for her crime.
Yeah. She didn't do anything nearly severe enough for that.
No, it was dismissed. So, Katherine Knight is still in prison at the Silverwater Women's Correctional Center and is a model prisoner.
Well, she did get awards for good behavior in school.
She has no reports of violence and has apparently taken on a leadership role amongst the other inmates and mediates disputes. I wondered if she was mediating them with a frying pan, but since it says that she had no violence reports, then I don't know. But my thought is, like, if she's so great at being in prison, perhaps, like, when she was thrashing her newborn baby around, they could have put her in prison then.
Or when she was locked up for other things that they could have just kept her.
When she cracked what's-his-face's head open with the frying pan, or when she stabbed him in the gut, or when she hit the other guy with an iron and stabbed him, or all of the other times, and definitely before she murdered Pricey.
Right.
Maybe that would have been the best time to put her in prison, but that is the 5 banana tale of Katherine
5 banana
Knight.
alarm.
Yeah, I have heard that story a couple of times on different podcasts.
Yeah.
And I always picture her being like this, like, large, like, lumberjack looking lady. And so I finally looked at a picture of her earlier. Let me show you. Because she's not what I pictured. This is.
Okay.
Yeah. So, I don't know. But she was not very nice.
No, she wasn't. Her mother was pretty right about her.
Yes. Well, remember that you can find us on social media at twistedandmysterious, or email us at twistedandmysteriousPodcast@gmail.com.
Anything else?
I can't think of anything else.
Okay. And if this story wasn't caution enough for you guys, remember that people are gross and don't get murdered.
Men and women both.
All of the above.
All right. We'll see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.